call the meeting to order. First order of business is the approval of the minutes from last meeting. Do I have a motion for that?
I do have a correction on on two parts where it says present on our minutes from our February meeting. It says Bill Ashton. It should say Bill Churchill. And then down where it says approval of minutes, same thing. Should be corrected from Ashton to Churchill.
Okay. With those corrections, do we have a motion?
So moved with the corrections.
Do we have a second? Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next we'll go on to old business, motion to amend the FY 2023 budget. And I don't know, Courtney, if you want to lead that or if Mallory wants to lead that.
Thank you. All right, good evening. Mallory Merritt, Assistant City Administrator and CFO. Thank you for inviting me tonight to talk to you. There's really two budget items. The first is the FY23 budget amendment. So about this time each year, all city departments start reviewing their budgets. We're required under state law to actually amend the city's entire budget by May and submit that to the Department of Management. So this is a very routine task for us. We've provided you in your packet, there is a chart that looks like this, if you can see it. The headings are teal. This is just an overview of the original FY23 budget and then how much has been expended. So that's going to be your next column, the YTD expended, so just year to date. What that leaves, so what's actually available, and then you'll see a highlighted column, additional funds needed. This is after Courtney and I had an opportunity to review the budget. These would be our suggestions to add there. You'll see that utilities are running just a little bit high, so we're recommending a $20,000 increase there. Maintenance, buildings, and grounds. This category is already overspent by a little bit there, so we're recommending an additional $37,000, and then under project expense an additional $30,000. And I just wanted to clarify, this doesn't necessarily mean that this is exactly what will be expensed, but just that you are approving the authority so that it's there if the commission should come up with something they want to spend those funds on. So again, pretty routine. Under state law, we're actually not allowed to overspend a category. So that's part of what goes into this as well, is making sure that you have sufficient funds that if you should want to do something, that we're not in a spot where we're overspending a category.
And Mallory, can you maybe just give a little bit of context to what the overspending is on? I mean, utilities is pretty self-evident. Yeah. But on the maintenance of buildings, I think that's probably related to the Freight House building and some of the repairs that have needed to be done there. But then also just project expense, like what falls into that bucket?
Yep, so maintenance, buildings, and grounds, we have discovered, I would say, quite a bit of deferred maintenance that our public works team has been dealing with. So some of that is certainly contributing. And right behind this are actually the printouts of exactly what expenses have occurred, how much they were, and when. So your first page there behind the spreadsheet are the maintenance, building, and grounds individual expenses. And then if you keep flipping, you eventually get to your project expenses. Project expenses you could sort of think of like miscellaneous. So these would be primarily, I would say, expenses associated with events, those types of things. So you'll see there Freight House concert, some carpeting, sound equipment setup, Quinlan Court concert. So more event outreach focused.
I have a question. The additional funds needed, the $87,000, so where's that coming from?
So this would be technically hitting fund balance, but what I will tell you is that I am not overly concerned that that's exactly how that would end up. There's quite a bit of savings from the top portion, the salaries and benefits. So you'll see that there's still quite a bit remaining there. I know Courtney's going to share an update on where we are with the hiring, but I don't presume we're actually going to spend all of that. So again, I'm not concerned really from a financial perspective on that.
Any other questions? If not, do we have a motion to approve the amended budget? We have a second? Any further discussion, questions? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, next, the 2024 budget.
All right, so this will be your last page in your packet. It looks like this one, so it's 3 columns. We have provided you all of the line items for expenses and revenues for FY24. We included an FY23 column just so you could see how the 24 budget compares and then what the percent change is. I just have a couple things to note on this. It's fairly straightforward and not a lot of significant changes compared to 23. But in salaries and benefits, you may recall that the position that we have posted and that we're working through the recruitment on is less than what is budgeted here. This budget was built on the assumption of a different position. So as I met with your chair and vice chair, I think the discussion was that there is an opportunity to potentially reprogram some of those funds once we know what the salary of the new employee will be, likely down into some of the programming areas. So I think we look forward to that conversation, but just wanted to note that. The utilities, we've increased that just a little bit. For FY22 actual, so our last completed fiscal year, our utilities were right around 106,000. So that's something, again, that the chair has asked us to investigate. So we'll be looking into exactly how all of the utilities are structured and probably bring that back to you at a future meeting. So overall expense totals up about 1.5%, which is right in line with many of our other city departments and divisions. And then your revenues down below, we've increased the budget for the rent payment revenue. Those have been coming in nicely. To date for FY23, we've collected about $270,000. So those are tracking along fine. So the fund overall has a positive margin of about $23,000, which is very similar to the 23 budget.
I have one question.
Go ahead.
Okay, maybe for the next meeting, do you think, since we did not receive our payment from the audit for the end of last fiscal year, could maybe Courtney bring that along with projected fund balance for this year? So we have kind of an idea. Usually what we get is another little page of fund balance, and I probably should have asked for that, but I think it would be good to share next month kind of where we are from the last fiscal year, because we didn't see it, and then what our projection is here now. And then, of course, we'll know later how we spend this year, but that would be nice to have.
Yep, we can certainly prepare that and provide it next month.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mallory on the proposed budget? And do we need to adopt this now, Mallory?
Yes, that'd be perfectly fine.
Do we have a motion to adopt?
I'll move the budget.
Is there a second? Second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much, Mallory. And Mallory has agreed she's going to be at a number of our meetings here initially as we sort of get going in this new system and process to really just help everybody get their arms around how our budget works, where the money, the in and the out, and just get a good understanding of our rents and some of that stuff. So we appreciate you taking the time to do that for us, Mallory. Next, under new business, work session proposal. Courtney, I'm not sure your mic is on.
There we are.
There we
Yes, so one of the things that we wanted to go ahead and propose is a work session so that we can really focus on our tenant billing and our payment procedures. So I know that Kelly was going to ask for some involvement in that, and I'd be happy to coordinate schedules and work through something so that we could make that happen.
Yeah, and I think we had, when Dee and I were able to meet with Courtney and Mallory, we talked a little bit more specifically about, trying to get a good understanding of all of our tenants, where all of them are at. Some of those are discussions that you don't necessarily want to have in a big public setting, and a work session is a good time to be able to talk through that, and respect our tenants and whatever challenges we need to work through with them and some of that. So ideally, what we'd love to do is have 2 or 3 people that might be interested in helping with that process, that would volunteer to meet with city staff, who are working very hard to try and help us get a better sense of things. So if there's anybody that is interested in that, I would love for you to just let Courtney know after the meeting here, and then we'll see if we don't have enough people, then we'll circle back around and see if we can get some interest. But if there are folks who actually have an interest, please talk with Courtney, and then we'll put together work session times and be able to work through that and then bring some of that forward in the appropriate form for our meeting. Next is Hello Lamppost, and I know Courtney has done a little bit of research on that. I don't know if all of you recall last year we had tested out Hello Lamppost, kind of a wayfinding communication tool for visitors and people downtown. That contract has lapsed. It's kind of a pricey contract for our purposes probably, but Courtney and I had talked a little bit about maybe there's an opportunity for us to talk with some of our partners. I know DDP, Visit Quad Cities have also looked at and had discussions about what's a good way to be doing wayfinding, particularly for visitors downtown. But I'll let Courtney talk a little bit more about what she found with it, and then maybe this is something that we would keep on the radar for conversations with partners.
Yeah, so Director Berger and myself, we had an opportunity to meet with our representative Ryan through Hello Lamppost. They were able to provide us with some really great statistics, and I mean great statistics in the sense that they were able to capture exactly how many people have used this. Unfortunately, it was brought to our attention that I think only about 63 users had actually utilized Hello Lamppost. We will mention that Ryan actually shared with us that it really is for a larger market, and it does often tend to do better in a larger market. So in sharing that information with Kelly, that's when she informed me that some of our community partners might also be interested in that, and that really might be a partnership in and of itself.
So yeah, I think, in Gwendolyn, that we talked about that a little bit recently at DDP meeting, and I know Kyle indicated that he's also talked with Visit Quad Cities a little bit, and it seems like that might be a good joint conversation for a few groups maybe to have.
Well, and it seems like there are a number of solutions in the marketplace, so there could be something, possibly that better fits a community of our size, or something that is pretty diverse in its layout and capturing various data, or there's maybe data that other parties are specifically interested in that maybe Hello Lamppost couldn't capture, doesn't capture. So I definitely think that that's a great idea to see where there's some synergy between our different partners.
And so maybe that's something, Courtney, where I maybe will get you connected maybe with Kyle and maybe Dave, and we can talk about how to, coordinate, have just even some initial conversations, and to see if there's a good direction to take, and just kind of see where they are actually already.
Question. When you say 63 users, that was in another city that they have this program, or where was that?
No, that was here. So
Here?
here we had 63 hits, I believe, is how many people accessed that throughout the year.
And what was the cost, Courtney?
I don't have that off the top of my head,
Okay.
but I'd be happy to provide that for you.
Okay. Because they had a renewal, I can't recall what the renewal amount was, but it was kind of pricey for 63
It was.
interactions probably, yeah.
It was.
Okay. Next, the concert series and Music on the River. Courtney, you have kind of a breakdown of what we currently have on the agenda.
Yeah, so what we were looking at is, in the past there had been the Sunday music series and then the Thursday music series. And moving forward, given the funding that we have, as well as staff time and allocations, we had discussed with Kelly and Dee that since we don't have a grant that we previously had from last year to support the entire funding mechanism, that we would just look towards this year, the Sunday summer concert series over in LeClaire Park. So that is something that we are actively working through right now, and we do anticipate to have that summer series up and ready to go.
And then the Quinlan Court concert, I think, was something we wouldn't try to program right now. I think that's also something that once we actually have a staff person on the ground running who can sort of tackle some of those, that is the type of thing they would do. But also, I think there's a good opportunity for us to be working with the downtown businesses to think about how to activate Quinlan Court, maybe from, the private side. It doesn't have to be public sector, city doing that necessarily. It's something that we can, hopefully help to support, but not necessarily be the ones to program that specifically. So I think that's kind of where we are in terms of the budget and in terms of the reality of our manpower.
Correct.
Anybody have any questions on that? Okay. That's all that we have on new business. On future business, I had asked Courtney to put just the First Bridge project on our radar a little bit, just because it is something that is very much right downtown on the riverfront. River Action has done a lot of work towards getting the First Bridge project funded so it can go into construction. I know that they're at a point right now where there's some other grants and funding that in order for them to be able to access that, they would need city support. It just seems like something that's appropriate for us to at least have a conversation, let them do a presentation perhaps sometime in the near future, and see if that is something that we can help advocate for. I don't know if any of you have any familiarity with that project. Does anybody know? Okay, so that might, you have a little bit, Rain? Okay. Yeah, and so maybe that's something where we would have them come present and determine whether that's something that we could be helpful with if we think that makes sense.
Where's Bill Ashton when you need him?
Yeah, Bill is very familiar with it, I know. Okay, next, a joint work session. Courtney, I know we've talked a little bit about getting that on the calendar.
Yes, so Mayor has reached out and would like to do a joint work session with you all, City Council and Riverfront Improvement Commission. It's scheduled right now for June 20th at 4 p.m. So we'd love to coordinate that and get something together.
Where would we do that at? Would that be here in council chambers or over?
It would either be here or in the community room. In the community room.
Okay. We like that, so that would be good. A little less formal. Do we know kind of what the agenda would be for that? Are there particular things that I don't know if you're aware that would?
At this time, I'm not, but I can certainly follow up and ask.
Okay. And so I would say also, if commissioners have any thoughts on things that you think might be helpful to have as part of that conversation, it'd be great just to get that information to Courtney, and we can kind of work on fleshing out an agenda for that.
Should we all put this on our calendar, or is this going to be a select group?
I think this is everybody.
It's for everyone.
Okay.
Next, the tenant billing and payment procedures.
Yes, so this really just ties into that work session proposal. It's something that we hope to have much further discussion on and something to provide you all with.
Management update, the dredging project. There's actually a few things here that Courtney she's getting to learn so much right now about things she never thought she would learn. So you want to give us a rundown on a few of those.
Yes, very true, Kelly. Thank you. I have had an opportunity to speak with Scott Clements. He has provided me with some updates throughout the month, which has been great to just see how that project is moving along. So I know that in January, I believe, he came and verified that the funding was approved. Since then, he wanted to let us all know that the project will actually start in the fall of 2023. Boaters are expected to be out of the marina by mid-October. And he talked to me a little bit about just some of the details. So just for example, the piers, how they're all anchored with chains. So the goal is really to push half of those to one side, begin the dredging process, and then push the other half and take care of the other side. In addition, he spoke to me about how the trucking costs have been approved for the dump site and how QC Waste Management has provided a dumping area for them. And just so you all know, Scott and I, we will continue to keep in contact as the project progresses, and then I hope to have him come in person and speak with you a little bit further about some of those details.
Does anybody have any questions on that? Go ahead, Randall.
I don't think I've ever used my mic.
Is the Corps of Engineers involved in that, or is that,
Yes, they are.
okay.
Can you just remind us where this is and then who Scott works for?
Yes. So Scott, I believe, and I might need some help with this from Bruce. Actually, he would know a little bit more than me. So Bruce, if you'd like to come up here and thank you.
I believe is with the Lindsay Boat Yacht Club. I think he has a full-time job somewhere else too, but that's kind of how Courtney and I have kind of interacted with him. So he's kind of governing that dredging contract with the Corps, which is, I think, and then they've hired a a contractor to do the work, right? I think that's how it flows.
And as I recall, getting the grant money was a big hurdle, and then figuring out a place where they could dispose of the dredged material was the thing that was kind of holding it up a little bit.
Yes.
And so it sounds like they've zeroed in on that, so that's good.
It's great news, yeah.
Next, the boat dock contract.
Okay. So just one thing that I had shared with Kelly and Dee, and just wanted to make sure that I shared with everyone else, is there was a boat dock contract that was approved last year, and it was awarded to Swenson. With that contract, though, that contract was actually only good for 1 year. So one of the things that I'm actually working on right now is going out to bid for the Busey Landing and the Marquette Boat Dock. This includes the install and removal for the season. So just like I said, if you see that bid out there or hear about it, that's really what the purpose of that is.
And Courtney, normally we get those out pretty early in spring. Do you know when? Do you remember? I don't know if you've seen in the documents when exactly we put them in normally.
Yeah,
Is that in
so
March or April?
It is actually in March. So the last time that this was done was in early March. So we're a few weeks off, but I'm not concerned about being able to fulfill that requirement.
And then do we have to pull, if there is a lot of flooding, I'm trying to recall if we have to pull them out during those flood stages and then put them back in again?
I do believe that is true, but I would like to double check with our Public Works Director and get you a definite answer.
Okay, and then just
That's
verifying
true.
that the,
It's true.
okay, and
I'm
so,
over here. True. So I think I might have sent a note to you, Courtney, that as we pick this, whoever the vendor is, we really need to see kind of where the water is. And maybe we don't have to put it in for a week or, and then pull them back out. So it might be good that we're a couple weeks or a month behind.
okay. And then the Riverfront Engagement Coordinator. This is probably the big one for our purposes.
Yes, so we have some pretty exciting news here. We actually had 62 applicants, which is huge, honestly, for any position right now. So that's a big deal. And it is a really exciting position. So definitely something for us to look forward to. But just to give you a few updates, interviews are set to take place on Wednesday, February 5th. And those are the internal interviews that ultimately get people onto the civil service list. The list will then be taken to civil service on April 12th for approval. Up to 15 candidates can be certified on that list, and that list is good for 1 year. So any of the 15 candidates, there's not necessarily a way in which you need to make the hire, but any of those 15 candidates are qualified. So from there, after the list is approved, we'll look towards scheduling interviews with the candidates, staff, and then selected commissioners to pick our finalist. And I believe Commissioner Randall and Gwendolyn were identified last time, but just to double check on that, Kelly, if you would.
Yes. Yep, that would be great. And then So the interviews would go the 12th through the 19th, kind of that week. And then how quickly from there would we expect we could make an offer? And
So the nice thing about civil service is everything has really been done in terms of having your background checks done and all of that other. So honestly, we could make it offer fairly shortly after we go ahead and pick our final candidate.
okay, so we could maybe assume that we would be on the ground with somebody by early to mid-May.
Yes.
Okay, so that would certainly be really nice. Anybody have any questions on that? We appreciate Gwendolyn Randall being willing to step in and do that. Thank you. Oh. Yeah. Okay, next, the park liaison report.
Yes, the Parks Advisory Board gave our final recommendation that will be passed along to City Council to approve the dog off-leash area standards for all of the DOLAs. We're still waiting. It got pushed off to April, our big report on all the different ARPA projects that are happening and stuff. And then we did see the results of our park development program, which is where the council and the Parks Advisory Board vote on how $350,000 of kind of discretionary money will be spent. And of interest to this group is particularly the Centennial Dog Park agility equipment for $19,000, which was something that came out of that public input with the dog park, that they wanted some stuff for the dogs to do down there. Kyle looks like he's seeing this for the first time. No. And then, what else did I have here?
Is that only going to happen at that park, at one particular dog park?
This
Not the
year,
Marquette
yes.
Street?
I believe that's correct. And then in the staff updates for the parks, Dillon Fountain, the contract was awarded and work should begin as soon as supplies are available. The Credit Island Nature Playground that I know everyone's interested in is in staff review, and staff demolition of the area is complete. And then they've entered into an agreement to start rehabbing the skate park with the design company. So that's moving forward. A site assessment will occur in the next few weeks. So I think that's most of what I had for parks.
Chris, I don't know, I know we had talked a little bit last time about the Credit Island playground area. Do you know what the timeline is on that, and when, I think we had talked about Chad coming back to sort of do a second presentation of kind of where you guys have landed and some of that?
I don't. I know that's on the agenda that got pushed to April, but I can email him too and say that Riverfront Improvement is very interested in that particular project.
That would be great.
And didn't we talk once about making sure, or we thought it would be a good idea at least, to have that raised so that it would be more accessible?
Yeah, and
I
I
think we
think
talked about that once.
Yeah, I think that was part of the conversation, that he was going to be talking with some of the engineering folks on that. So, yeah.
So that area is raised up out of the flood that happens down there.
Okay. Dee, did you have anything?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. All right. I realize we did not welcome our newest member, Angela Stone. So Angela is new to our commission. This is her first meeting, so we welcome you. Glad to have you on board. Any public with business here today? Doesn't look like it. Any other business, any of the commissioners?
Just thank you for the new signs and the notebooks. Those are very nice.
You're welcome.
Okay, I think that is all on the agenda. So do I have a motion to adjourn? Okay, we are adjourned.